do that?
Not like
We need a
I'm
microphone
gonna have to
check.
keep
Do that
recording
all the time.
behind the
Mic
scenes.
check.
or something.
Mic check.
And I'm just like, oh my god, all that stuff, it makes a difference. It's annoying because, you know, who cares? Because the
Once
photos got
it's,
memory, but I can't help it. Like, I obsess about it.
Are we live?
We are live.
But that's why, so
We're
now it's
doing
like my
mic checks
practice.
here.
Like,
Mic
practice
check.
with photos.
1,
Mic
2,
check.
1,
But, like,
2.
Yeah, I feel like she's also super cute.
Nobody's
So
watching
today,
actually.
And yesterday I spent like, I
So
got into
yeah.
just
I don't want to know how many
like
viewers.
walking
All
closet.
seven.
Why am I? Oh, for the mic check.
Robin, it was
Would
like
you like
so
my wife?
I walked so much shit fell on my head. And I'm like trying to
Oh, I
get
sent it around to a few people.
nightmare. Right. So today I have
Yeah, that's
now
true. We'll
on
mute
one
this
side of my
one.
I know,
Oh,
isn't
okay,
it
wait.
amazing?
Wait.
So excited.
Okay. All right, girls. We're actually.
Sad
Oh,
lonely, sad lonely.
I mean, I don't really care, but
No,
so
but
yeah.
that's the problem.
Here's our live audience back here.
You can talk. I mean, we're doing.
Oh, hi.
We're just doing a
I
mic
got
check.
distracted. I got distracted by Grace's shoes.
We're gonna get this camera set so we got
Matt, can you
Instagram
talk?
live.
Rack was $30. I bought it years ago.
What's that?
Never used
Talk.
it all.
Hi,
Oh
my
my
name's
god,
Matt
they're
Klein. I like
didn't
long
look that
walks
great.
and
They look cooler
so
from
sad.
They look cooler on the rack.
It's picking them up just fine, so I'm sure we're fine.
Okay.
Oh my god.
We just need to remember not to move
That's what I
that.
finally
This one's
figure out how to
okay.
organize
Is this
my closet.
being picked up live? Is everybody listening?
Yes, you're 100% live, but I don't really think anybody's watching.
I don't
Oh, there's 3 people
And
watching.
my shoes would be like,
Nobody's watching.
have everything, but I needed another dresser. So now I got another dresser.
You want to
Because
use
I
the
can
bottle?
Yeah, so it's my closet goes like this. This side is the shoes and then all my hanging places. So I had to get rid of half of them into
It's hard
the
to get a
dresser.
like a wide
So I had
angle.
to get rid of some stuff. Some stuff I just didn't use. You haven't worn it in 3 years. But I'm like, but you never know.
Should I log on too?
Let it go.
Watch myself?
I feel like
Yeah, you
some
should.
dresses, like, long
Increase the
dresses,
viewership.
But I'm like, I've worn them 20 years and I'm not gonna wear stuff. I mean, I'm pretty good at getting rid of stuff, like my shoes.
Is the peanut gallery gonna throw questions out?
Are we allowed? You have to
Not
give us
yet.
assigned questions, otherwise no.
What?
Yeah. Otherwise I'll ask something stupid and it'll be really bad.
For posterity.
All
Yay!
right. All right. Should we start?
Yes, let's start. Woo-hoo. All right, how do you start it? Back on.
Action.
It's already been
It's already
on.
live.
Oopsie.
So we'll start. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sassquad Trail Runners RunVenture, not Zoom series. This is our Facebook Live Instagram series. We are live at the stadium here, live from Livingston, New Jersey, with the legend Matt Klein himself.
I'm not a legend.
Well, we'll get to that in a
My own
minute.
mind, maybe.
We're not going to do any Sassquad announcements. If you tuned in last night, we had an interview with Trisha Ignatowski. We went through all of the Sassquad events. If you want to know what's going on, just go on to sassquadtrailrunning.com or our social media. Facebook is Sassquad Trail Running, which you're on right now. Instagram, Sassquad Trail Runners. Not even going to scratch the surface of what we need to cover tonight, but we'll try to cover everything. We'll try to hold, are we holding tears in or letting tears out?
Whatever, you know. You make me smile, I'll laugh. There's a lot of personal stories out there. My experience and our team experience, and we just experienced with being part of the event or events that just, you know, can't help but bust into random tears as you're driving down the road. So we'll take it as it comes.
That's it. All right, so let's set the stage. First, every time we have a guest on, we like to do just a brief running story. You've
Brief.
got brief. Brief is the key word. So let's keep that succinct, and then we'll. Maddie, what is your running story?
My running story. I saw my sister-in-law Jen run the New York Marathon in 2004. I was on the streets in Brooklyn. I was probably having a couple too many pops at the time. And I just saw Walks of Life running by, and a little kernel, you know, popped in my head. That seed kind of bounced around for a while. You know, it looked amazing. Did I have what it took to get that done? I didn't think so. I had no self-confidence, no ability. But 2 years later, I got in on the lottery. I applied. I got in on the lottery, thank God. And started training 4 months out. You know, every weekend was a personal best. I loved that. I loved the planning that went into it. And then come Marathon Sunday, it was one of those perfect New York afternoons. The sun was golden. The temperatures were perfect. There were 2 million spectators out there. My whole family and circle of friends came out, and step of the way, I doubted myself and my abilities. But nonetheless, after it was over, I kind of fell into a bit of a funk. I didn't really understand why until I figured out I missed the training. I missed having something on the calendar to work towards. And I quickly signed up for another race after that. It was the New Jersey Marathon the following May. And I got back into training and all that sort of thing. Another great event. And I just, from that point on, always like to have something on the calendar to work towards. Also vowed I would never sit on the couch for Marathon Sunday in November, which is New York. So I ended up running 14 consecutive years New York Marathon outside of Sandy when it was canceled, and then a lot of other road marathons. Always afraid, always trained and watched on reservation, around the reservation on the road. Never dropped in on the trails. Was always afraid of the trails. Again, that doubt popping in my head. Until one day I dropped in. And it was a whole new world. It was incredible. And then from there, the progression, I had a lot of friends that egged me on to a degree. It's like, hey, you did a marathon, why don't you try a 50K? You did a 50K, why don't you try a 50 mile? You did a 50 mile, why don't you try a 100K? We know how that goes. And then my first 100 was east of Bergen, towpath up in New York, upstate New York. And then Vermont. And it just kept going from there. I did the Tahoe 200 in 2019 at the urging of the OG Stephen Banfield.
Yeah, tie-dye Steve.
And that race, just like the New York Marathon, in 2006, that race changed my life. I fell in love with Lake Tahoe. I fell in love even deeper with the running community. It's all she wrote, So I like to keep challenging myself. So because I like that fear, that unknown, that doubt, and I like to conquer it on a fairly regular basis. Because even now, I don't really consider myself a runner, quite honestly. And I know that's a deeper conversation for later. But I firmly believe if I could do it, anybody could do it. Wholeheartedly, hand on heart, I believe that. So, and I'll encourage anybody.
You are a good encourager.
As we know.
This is true.
This is true, and I didn't mention that. I should have given a little backstory. We met each other. I don't even really know when we met. It was probably a few years ago. By the way, this broadcast is brought to you. Coca-Cola coffee.
Fueled by Coca-Cola coffee.
That's beverage of choice.
Phenomenal.
Doesn't matter what time of the day or what mile.
Surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good. Thank you to our sponsor. But yeah, we met a few years ago through the trail running scene, and you are, that's one way of putting it, the master encourager. Kind of just keep poking until...
I like to say it's a gentle nudge.
A gentle nudge / like kick over the side. But Matt was the one who twisted my arm to make the jump for the 100 and then to sign up for Tahoe 200. And it's been, you guys have heard my story a few weeks ago. It's been an incredible year. Too early on the interview to cry, so it's...
Come on!
No.
Loosen it up!
So, I owe Matt a lot, and he's helped me in my running journey. So, okay, you did Tahoe 200, 2019.
Yep.
Why? Okay, let's talk. Let's first explain what is the Triple Crown for folks who might have never heard of it, and then why did you want to do that?
So Destination Trail is the organization that puts on these 200 milers. I think it was Steve Banfield really that put the idea in my head. I saw that he had done it one year and I followed his journey and that was pretty remarkable. And I had run the Vermont 100 5 times and I ran the Javelina 100 a bunch of times and East of Burden twice. One of them I DNF'd, and I DNF'd once at Vermont as well, and I DNF'd once at javelina. That's did not finish. I wanted to see, just like the marathons kind of progressed, I wanted to see if I could get a 200 done. And like I sold you on 100, Steve sold me on the 200, and it just seemed like a great adventure, quite honestly. And the other catalyst was my father passed away. I signed up for the Tahoe 200 the day after he passed away. Whether or not I was looking for an excuse to sign up, it was a pretty good one. So it was pretty cathartic. I brought his ashes with me on that journey, spread some ashes at one of the highest peaks, and he came along with me for the Triple Crown as well. So having done Tahoe, okay, what else can you do? And I saw some folks were doing the Triple Crown. It came to my forefront of my conscience. The Triple Crown is the Bigfoot 200 in the Cascade Range. Starts around Mount St. Helens. That runs in August, and then they do Tahoe in September, and then Moab 240 in October. So I said, all right. I started training I was in one or two, and then I talked to my wife. If your training's up there, you might as well hit all three if you can.
Might as well.
It's just like with the marathons. I found it was tough to train and then sit on the couch and lose all the training and then train back up. It's kind of easier to stay at a level than it is to go up and down. So I took advantage of it and had a long conversations with my wife, and we decided to go for it.
Amazing.
Fearful, so much fear wrapped into it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Logistics, fear, all sorts of things.
Okay, logistics.
Yep.
So let's talk about how in the world do you even plan to run 3 200-mile plus races, and what goes into that? Like, we can start to talk about travel, lodging. I know people are probably very interested in that, and then also like crew and pace. How does that all come together, crew and paces?
So I'll back up just one step. I read a book by Jesse Itzler called what's the Navy SEAL book?
You Can't Hurt Me.
No, not You Can't Hurt Me.
Living with the Seals.
Living with a Seal.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how David Goggins came into everybody's vernacular. And one of the themes in the book was Jesse saw this guy. We didn't know it was David Goggins at the time, running around a track. It was a 200-mile race around a track that Jesse was doing with his team of guys, and then there was this one guy that was doing it all by himself that just kept going. And he wanted to be like that guy, so he cold called him and explained, hey, I saw you, would love to train like you, can you help me? So it kind of put the idea in my head. If I wanted to do the Triple Crown, how do I train for the Triple Crown? So I basically did the same. I sent an email and reached out to a guy named Mike McKnight, who, he's the goat.
Moab Mike.
He's the goat of
Yeah.
the Triple Crown. He's got all sorts of records. I asked him if he was taking on people for coaching, and sure enough, he did. And it's been a fantastic journey, because I can sit here now and say I got it done, right?
Yeah.
And that was with his help. So that helped me as far as the training goes. And he was great too, because he just, like a good coach, it was unique to me and my needs, and when I had injuries and this, that, and the other thing, he worked around it and gave me what I needed at the times that I needed it. That to me was a sign of a great coach. And so that piece is set. So now it's the logistics
Right.
part of it. And it's kind of funny, because you would ask me, you're like, did you have your meeting with your crew, or did you do this, or did you do that? And a lot of times I'm like, no, not yet. So I can't say that I'm at the head of the pack as far as planning goes, but there's a required list that comes with the manuals, all the gear that you need, and it just kind of lays stuff out. I didn't know how 3 were gonna go. I've only done 1, so I knew how to do 1. 3 was interesting, but in the reality is you kind of come back, you just kind of leave your suitcase there, and then you dust it off
Yeah.
before you go again. You know, fill up the scratch, fill up the nutrition, then you go again. Pacing and the folks that supported me was another. It wasn't a challenge. There's a lot of people that are out there that want to help, which is why I love the community. You can attest to Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
With my crew chief Dougie
Yeah.
Wilson, who unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. Justin Dew, another great friend who we've run a lot with over the years, and yourself. I was the crew for Bigfoot. You guys were stretched. You guys did.
Were we stressed?
You guys did it. Not stressed, stretched.
Stretched. Okay.
Because Bigfoot's pretty remote.
Yeah.
You guys drove like 1,200 miles over the course of that, and I only ran 200. So. And then, Tahoe got canceled because of the wildfires. So then, it was the Hail Mary in Colorado, which, Jimmy Leitner came out, and Dan Jablon, Doug again, and Evan, who's sitting over here right now, I'm looking at. And then Moab was Evan, Doug again, and Nick and Hannah Mathers, friends of mine from a while back. I used to work with Nick, and they live in Texas, and he called me up and saw that I was doing it and said, sign me up, I want to help out.
So Dougie was with you for all 3.
Dougie was with me for all 3, yeah.
Dougie's the man.
He's the voice of truth.
He's the man.
Yeah, I'm forever grateful for the help that I got. Some folks love running these solo. Some folks choose to run them solo to challenge themselves even further. I love the community aspect. I love having folks along for the journey and the company, quite honestly. A lot of moments, sitting out there, I don't really want to be alone. Like the moment we turned the lights off in Bigfoot. You remember that?
That was very dark.
Darkness I have never felt before.
You kind of lost your sense of being,
Yeah.
almost. It was so dark.
Yep. All senses were cut off.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I got the Pacers. I would do it all exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Less whining and complaining, probably.
Yeah. Well, we might have to bring over some testimonials for those
And
moments.
you have your own as well.
You weren't as bad as you think you were.
Really?
Nah. I mean, there were some moments, but come on.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, Bigfoot was incredibly difficult. There was a fair amount of crying going on during that race. Colorado was probably even more crying. Moab, I thought, was great. But no crying, right? You shaking your head?
You're good. You were good.
That was good, right?
You were very good.
I ran with a real sense of gratitude in Moab, but I think it was also because I knew it was the last one, and
Yeah.
not because I was happy to be done, but I knew I would get there,
Yeah.
or at least I hoped that I had the best shot of getting there because it was the last one.
Was the last
Yeah.
one. Yeah. All right, so let's try to walk through each of the races. So we'll start with the first one, Bigfoot. And if you could share, maybe we'll start briefly, like a description of Bigfoot. What is it? Where was it? Kind of the terrain. And then if you want to talk about like the first couple stories that come to your mind, or like the moments that really stick with you about Bigfoot 200.
Sure. So Bigfoot, we fly into Portland. We fly. It's point to point. It starts closer to Portland and ends closer, basically, to Seattle, a town called Randall. And it goes around Mount St. Helens. And it happened to be a heat wave when we were out there. I think it was 106 degrees the first day. And Mount St. Helens is just you're running through blast zone. So it's just destruction still. It's 40 years later, and it's all pretty barren. And it was pretty brutal that first day. I mean, there was a lot of carnage, a lot of folks got knocked out because of the heat. And you're literally going over lava fields, you know, these big boulders. You're hopping from boulder to boulder and walking through, you know, the blast zone. It was tough, really tough. And then, and this is where I think I picked you up that first evening. Chain of Lakes, was that where I picked you up?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And it was all overgrown. Like, so there's been no trail work because of COVID, and you know, I went back and I read the race description too, so they kind of lay it out there.
Sort of.
You kind of
In like a really sweet way where you're like, oh, it's not that bad.
You know,
right?
it's deep, dark, dank Pacific Northwest running. But what it really is, it was so overgrown, and the trails were pretty ruddy. You know, so you're kind of forced. At least for me, I developed some severe blisters on the outsides of my feet because you're never running flat. You know, you're kind of in a trench running, and you can't see your feet because everything's overgrown. And then there were more than 1,000 down trees because of 2 years of storms and no trail work going on. So you're climbing over, you're climbing under, and the other thing is that they don't believe in switchbacks out there. You know, so every climb was straight up, basically, and you can attest to this.
It is true. It is true.
So, you know, I thought Bigfoot was pretty difficult. You know,
And the water crossings.
And there were 5 water crossings.
Yeah.
Some of them knee deep, hip deep. So you're running in wet shoes and socks and stuff like that. That said, you know, when we finished, and you were right with me on the track, I said, never again.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Uh,
I can't say I'll go with pace. I'm looking forward to giving back and volunteering and pacing. I'm not going to completely rule it out. You know?
here we go.
You know? So it's like, don't worry, Nicole.
Nicole just
I was gonna say.
Nicole's wife.
There's nothing immediate. But, you know, we have a habit of forgetting the intense pain and just basking in the
Ultra brain.
fact that what an incredible journey. And again, I couldn't have gotten there by myself, you know, like, you know, with the Pacers and you guys crewing me, and then, you know, there are trail angels out there left and right. Sky Bryan taped my feet up first, and then, you know, we know Nicole, you know, came out of the darkness and fixed my feet up. Without that, I don't finish, you know. Especially, you know, the way my feet were chewed up at that race, you know. But some of the things that I remember about that, I remember, you know, I still listen to the playlists, you know.
Yeah.
You guys were like, stop playing the same music, but it just brings me back to that, and it was pretty cool. Like the sunrise that we experienced,
That was amazing.
unbelievable. You know, the fog settling, you know, Mount St. Helens peeking through the fog, pretty incredible. You know, the water crossing, the nap by the, what was it, Lewis?
Yeah,
the
Lewis
water,
River.
Lewis
Yeah.
River and the waterfalls
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's spectacular. Those are the things that I remember. And then even coming around that track at the end, when those little kids were running across the field to ring the bell,
Yeah.
when we came in on the track, I mean, that's what you remember. I don't remember the hallucinations or I certainly remember some of the crying, but you remember the beauty of it. So that was Bigfoot. Tahoe gets canceled.
Yep.
I got one shot at doing the Triple Crown. At least that's my viewpoint.
You got to give the timeline too, when it was canceled, because it wasn't like we knew in June, you know.
No, so we finished Bigfoot. I think we found out on the track as soon as we finished that there was a fire that started in Tahoe, and there was a lot of hope that they would contain it quickly, which didn't happen. The fire, you know, the conditions out west were just horrendous. The fire ended up burning, I don't know, 225, 230, 250,000 acres, just an insane amount of damage, which just breaks my heart for the folks that are out there and that land. There's a special pull to Tahoe, but they canceled the race 10 days out, I think, which just really, you know, I felt bad for everybody that's running that race, the community, you know, everybody involved, but I also, you know, we put a lot of work into these races, you know, you experienced it yourself. So we wanted to, you know, there was an option for a virtual, and I hate using the word virtual because it kind of makes me feel like I'm playing a video game or I'm on a treadmill or something, but they gave us parameters. Destination Trail gave us some parameters that would fulfill the second leg of the Triple Crown, and that was you had to get 33,800 feet of elevation, 200 miles obviously, and you had to do it in 110 hours, which was 10 hours more than they usually give, but since it's self-sufficient, you know, that they gave you a little bit of extra time, which we needed too. It's not, there's something to be said about running a race with, you know, 200 other folks and their crews and all the staff and the aid stations and all those people that are involved. It's another to be out in the woods by yourself trying to get it done. But my crew was excited about it. We weighed the idea of doing the Wachundo 200, which, you know, sounded horrendous.
Terrible.
The Watchung Reservation is the local 10-mile loop here, and I love Watchung. Don't get me wrong, I
We
love
love
Watchung.
Watchung.
That's my
We love it. We know it.
love it. Or running in South Mountain, or even going out to Mountain Creek and just
Oh,
doing.
that was
repeats
probably
there.
the worst idea.
Nobody ever said I had good ideas. But I wanted to do something that would excite the crew, keep them interested as well. So, and I don't know who drove it. Probably Evan, Dan, and Jimmy. Doug was going wherever we went. But we ended up going to Colorado, and we started in Leadville. We did 200 there. Now, that race took a little bit of a turn because we were going to do the collegiate loop, and again there were other people that helped us along the way, like Kevin Goldberg is a friend who I volunteered with at Moab, and Chris Sight. Chris was doing the collegiate loop from the bottom. We were starting at the top from Leadville. A lot of intel they gave us. We bumped into adorable Annie.
Yeah.
Actually won Moab.
Yeah, she did.
We bumped into her at Leadville, and she just, you know, so humble and giving of information and intel on the loop, just really helped put us in a position for success. Now the elevation or the altitude killed me. We train at about 100 feet above sea level here, so Leadville's at 10,100 feet or so, and those mountains get up to 12 and a half, 13,000 feet, and I was talk about whining, right? Ev got the first night with me, and it took us forever. And I didn't realize, quite honestly, there's a level of you know, my uninformed self helps. Being naive
Naivete.
and jumping into these things really helps, because I didn't realize, you know, the altitude sucks your strengths. You know, you got 50% of your blood at 10,000 feet. Yeah, 50%. Your blood carries 50% of the oxygen at 10,000 feet than it does here at sea level. So I was kind of at a disadvantage with that because there was no acclimation. We flew out there and we just started running. I was tired. I had no power. I couldn't catch my breath. All these things. And it was the second, after a first brutal night with Evan, the second morning I had Jimmy, and it was a 5-mile climb, the first hill. I was with Jimmy the next day, and it was another climb up to 13,000, and you know, it was my dad's birthday, also September 11th. I was a hot mess. I had no idea how I was going to get it done. I was having a complete mental breakdown. You know, I was crying, I was spreading ashes, I just was a mess. And then it dawned on me that it was our race. And these things might seem obvious to other people, but I'm like, well, you know what? We're the ones that have created this race. We can change it. All we have to do is get 200 miles, we have to do it in a certain time, and we have to get a certain amount of climb. So I ran 100 miles down the loop, and when we were supposed to come up on the western side, which is harder than the eastern side, and more spaced out, so less crew access, we decided to run a 25-mile section on the east side, back and forth. That would keep me at about 10,500 feet, which I can handle, and it worked out, and it was great, and it was such a relief, and I ran happier the second half. Which was just a miracle.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was literally, and it's a credit to all the pacers too. They're like, come on, just a little more. Like, they all know how to tweak me. And by the third race too, like they were playing me like a fiddle. They knew exactly what to do. But it's all a learning experience. It's fantastic. And then Moab was icing on a cake. We got all 4 seasons in one race. It started with a solid 12 hours of pouring rain, and then it kind of cleared up, and then the rain came back in the middle of the night, and you're like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
And then it got beautiful out and warm, and then the snow came, and then the hail came, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. And again, like Nicole and Jenny, two trail angels were out there fixing feet and getting people across the line. It's spectacular. And there's all those stories. My story's benign compared to like some of these other folks that are out there. So again, like I've never been involved with something where everybody wants everybody to succeed, like the best you can. It's remarkable. And that's why I love the community, and why I firmly believe if I can do this, anybody can do it, quite honestly. A mile is a mile. Somebody's 5K is another person's 200. It's all the same. I haven't lost sight of that first mile I ran. I mean, I couldn't run around a basketball. So it's great. I love the fact that we all support each other. And that's why you do such a phenomenal job with this organization, because it's so encouraging, right? We encourage each other. I mean, you should just sign up for the triple instead of just doing time.
Okay, there it is.
It only took 33 minutes.
33 minutes.
I stopped at 1.
So you have it on tape. You would come crew, right? All 3?
Come on, you know I would.
We interrupt this broadcast to take a break. Oh man, incredible. Yeah, I think you brought up a good point that there aren't a lot of other places in life where you can find that deep sense of community. Where we find it here in trail running and ultra running. So, I know we had a couple of questions from the Peanut Gallery, and I want to make sure I hit, because I can't remember if it was Robin or Grace put it in the chat. That was a really good question.
Family, how do family and friends support?
Family and friends.
Non-runner friends.
Non-runner friends. So the question is, how did you feel support from family and friends kind of like outside of the running community?
Especially wifey.
She's been phenomenal with this, because it's not just the races, right? It's all the training that leads up to it, and the days that we take away at Mountain Creek and wherever we go to do our training. So absolutely phenomenal. And the kids, I mean, one of the things with these races too, and I'm going to go off on a little side tangent here, but friends and family wrote cards and letters, and I would put them in my drop bags, and I would read them at every aid station, and it would really help keep me motivated. It would help me break out in random tears. So there's that aspect of it. So everybody's really supportive in that way. I was talking to my buddy Keith the other day, I think it was yesterday, and it was remarkable because he's following along on the tracker, and he just doesn't know, he knows my story, but he's clicking into everybody else that's on that race, and he's pulling and rooting for everybody, and then, between him telling me his perception of how it was going, and man, somebody finished with 2 seconds and somebody finished with 10 seconds, and then I was able to give him
Yeah.
the other side of the story that I know that was relayed to me, you know, through folks out on the course that actually were intimately involved with helping these people across the line. So, you know, the support is remarkable all around. And, you know, listen, social media and Facebook and all that sort of stuff, you put something out there, every comment and every bit of support helps. You know, you don't live and breathe by it, but people are rooting for you. So, you know, and I also, you know, non-running friends was the question. I put my legs to good use for Vermont Adaptive, which is a phenomenal organization I've been involved with since I ran my second Vermont 100, and I was happy to you know, put a link out there and look for donations to help support the cause, and that's remarkable. I mean, we've been able to raise, you know, since we started, over $110,000.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
That's phenomenal. You know, I always said, like, my first race was for me, and then you know, the subsequent races are for a cause. You know, something bigger than Matt Klein, because he's, yeah, little potato.
I think we're gonna take a broadcast break because it's switching Wi-Fi's and I want to get it on the right Wi-Fi because it keeps cutting out. I'm getting messages.
Do we have to pause the?
I don't know. Let me see.
All right. Bear with
Sorry.
us. Technical glitch here.
You're on my old Wi-Fi. It worked for a little bit, but
Get the questions in order.
yeah.
I think we should bring Evan in here for some personal
Yeah.
anecdotes.
Yeah, you can go move the
I think so.
stuff
All
around.
right, we'll set up a little stage change here. Get Evan in.
Okay.
Listen, speak to anything.
I think you're on though, so just so you know.
All right.
Careful
Alright.
what you say.
Hop in the middle there,
Careful
Evan.
what you
I
say.
in there.
didn't
Are we
read
live?
or write
Someone
his
commented
talking
from
points.
How much? Can you give me again?
I want to do a little turn. You're all in. I'm just waiting for someone to write back that we're live.
You respect that you talk about the culture of it? No. Well, he mentioned it. But,
What's that?
Does it say we're still live
You got
on?
another question?
Give me 1 sec.
I have a question.
It's
Throw
saying
it out
waiting
there.
for live signal, so.
Are you good? Wait, we're waiting for live signal.
Still live. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
We're good. Okay. All right. Well, during the commercial break, we brought on Evan is here. Evan was a member of the crew pace team for the Colorado Hail Mary and Moab 240.
Colorado Hail Mary.
Colorado Hail
That
Mary.
sure was.
I mean, that's.
Good name.
I think that's a good title for it.
Good
So, Evan, why don't you give us a little bit of background? How you were feeling about?
Speak up.
Are we all right? We're good.
Ryan wants you to talk louder too.
Talk louder. Okay, I think we can turn this up as well. A little bit of that.
Now you talk?
Okay, so crewing and pacing. Where do we even start with that? What was did Matt ask you to join the team or did you ask him? How did that go?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I probably, when I heard about it, I just slid in there and said, you know, I want to be, so probably forced his hand a little bit. But knowing that, you know, I think anybody that knows Matt would jump at the chance and try to live the same. So I was extremely forced as well.
And have you done any crewing and pacing before?
I have. And I gotta say, for other ultra runners who, you know, Matt's talking about like something he wants to do a little bit more, it's a completely different perspective. It's like running a lot of races to the other side, helping somebody achieve their goals
Yeah.
and watch them with their struggle from start to beginning. It's a completely different high. So I know he's volunteered before in other races. So for other ultra runners who have not volunteered for a pace or crew, I would highly, highly recommend it. It's completely different.
Are you hearing this right here? This is it. If you want to get involved with the volunteer dream team with Sassquad Trail Running, just shoot me an email. We'll hook you up. Talk about your experience crewing and pacing for both of those. I know they were both very different, but what was that like, and what juicy dirt can you give us on the experience?
Be honest.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back.
I mean, I do, Matt already mentioned it before, we have to make sure we get a great sharp, you're not fatigued from the racing, but that worry of where is he, how is he doing, you have to be here, you need to make sure you've got calories, and you take it on yourself very emotionally if you see him struggle, if you see him fail. We're still quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go. He's a quiet guy. Sorry, guys.
I'm sorry.
Aaron, scoot up and I'll hold the mic up here. You hold the mic. Do that.
So, I don't know. I would do this in a heartbeat again, but it's definitely a unique experience, and it was just fantastic to be a part of it. Absolutely fantastic.
Do you have any questions for Evan here?
Where was I whining the most? Give me one of those. Because it's not all rainbows and bubblegum and unicorns, right?
It's not?
I'm the only
Yes,
unicorn.
it is.
It's not.
Yes, it is. I was sold as that.
I think the first night was probably a little bit of a shock to me because I as long as I know you're a very positive guy. You don't get really down on yourself very much. And that first night, which was in Colorado, that stretch where it was dark and it was high and it was cold. I wasn't worried about you, but the fact that some of the words that came out of your mouth, you're like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what to do. You know, there was trepidation in your voice, and that was new. That was something different for me to see. So it wasn't necessarily worry. It was just okay, how do we navigate this with you? And it was still relatively early in the race, so that was probably it.
That's a good point because I always say these races are it's all about problem solving because you ask about prep and planning. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? Isn't that what Mike Tyson says? And that couldn't be more appropriate for this because all the planning in the world, something's going to go wrong. And when I saw the weather forecast for Moab, you're like, we trained in this.
Yes.
All those miserable days and they weren't really miserable. We had a lot of fun with them.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta train in the rain, you gotta train in the snow, you gotta train in any conditions because you don't know what you're gonna get. So when it does come, you're like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
I've done this.
Yeah. We were talking about before we started, the last time the three of us ran together was last winter. We went out, remember,
Oh.
to Stonetown
Except
Circular
that.
Trail.
Except that.
But hey, it came to help you at.
I don't know about that.
I could have done without Mountain Creek, thank you.
Hey, I love Mount Creek.
In the rain, we
On
missed
the
that
rain
one.
day. That was fun.
But that is a good point. I mean, like, if you're a fair weather runner, that really doesn't help you when you're out there and Mother Nature kind of unleashes.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So-
That's the thing. You can't plan that. So.
Yeah.
So let me if I can ask someone.
Yes, go.
This is probably good for other people to hear, but when after the day after, I think something that probably a lot of people want to know, and I wanted to know, was for you personally, was the why. So when it is, you're at mile 130 and it's raining or sleeting, and you're in a warm, comfy car, and you don't want to get out, or if your feet have these blisters that are size of watermelons, or whatever, you're going through all these types of emotions. For you or for other people, what's that why? You got a little bit of time to think about it now. What kind of keeps you going? Because I know people would like to hear.
I mean, the why is obviously just personal to everybody, right? I'm always fighting my own body dysmorphia, and I'm that chubby little kid with braces and glasses that I'm trying to run into the dirt, quite honestly. And that's kind of how I view myself. You heard me say earlier, after even doing these 200's, I don't really much consider myself a runner. Gilbert will say I'm an ultra jogger, right? And say something silly about the chair.
He already did.
Huh?
He already did.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did.
I'm gonna put a red flag on his page. Those are the things that I'm kind of battling, and these, I like to say my memories kind of, last about 24 hours, and then I reset and have to remind myself all over again, and that's why I keep training and keep running and keep challenging myself and want to keep challenging, and to further. These are such incredible journeys. such unbelievable adventures, you know, and to experience it with friends and family is remarkable. You know, that share, again, going back to that shared experience. I love that. That's a high, you know, I'm chasing that high, you know, to get there. I'm also, you know, I don't want to, I mean, the Triple Crown came about also, and it just reminded me, a bit of a midlife crisis, you know. I'm not getting any younger. You know, I brought it up to my wife, and we have this and that we're planning for, you know, there's always something. So, shoot it. Shoot the moon. Just take the shot and go for it. You know, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, quite honestly. You know, I mean, I could get hit by a car stepping off the curb. You know, and then what happens to, you know, all those dreams that I had? They're not going to come with any. They're not coming close to fruition.
Right.
So there's no better time than now. You know, and I urge everybody, if they're thinking about what 2022 is going to look like, you know, what you're going to do, just sign up. Take it. What's the worst that can happen? You know, you don't finish. I got plenty of those. That's why you should just sign up for the triple.
Okay. 747.
Second time.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And I wanted to ask Evan one more question. How did the experience of Korean pacing, not one but two, 200 plus mile races, how did that change you as a person and a runner? Has it changed any of your goals that you have personally as a runner?
That's a good question. So two things. I guess I probably fell into a little bit of a lull as well with my own kind of racing, and so you want that spark of something different, something new. So one, it made me, I guess, see from a different perspective the mental, like sheer mental power and the willpower and this human spirit. And I know that, okay, you know what, if Matt can do it and all these other people can do it, there's probably something a little bit left in me. And that's not necessarily running. That could be as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a coworker, whatever it may be. So I'm actually grateful for that.
Yeah.
And two, just like again, the pacing and the crewing and the volunteering, it's something that I enjoy. I really do enjoy it. Matt's not the first. He won't be the last. And it's something I really truly enjoy now. So I think it's something I'll definitely do more.
Are you wanting to do a 200?
Oh, hesitancy.
I don't.
Oh, that's
They
it.
didn't say no
That wasn't an
immediately.
automatic no.
Reel him in.
We were talking about this before too, and I was asking them after. It's a different than like 100 or a 50 where you have to run faster. This is more about running at your pace, a slower pace, but again, just longer. You just have to run longer and wrap your head around that. Matt said it. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
So you're out there for a long time, slower. So it's a different type of a challenge, like 100 or a 50 or a marathon or something like that. So I don't think I've wrapped my head around something like that quite yet. But anybody who's done ultra, you just never say never.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best pieces of training for this really was, and Mike had me doing like sleep deprivation training. You know, run at 11 o'clock, run 18 miles at 11 o'clock at night, and then get up at 3 and then run some more. You know, I know you pick your spots for that, but they do that David Goggins challenge. You remember that 4 miles every 4 hours?
4x4 by 48. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's close to what these 200s are like also. Not selling it short, but just the fact like getting up and going when you don't want to go.
Right.
Like that's what it boils down to. I mean, there was a point where it was a tough climb at Moab, a couple thousand feet. The wind was howling 40, 50 miles an hour, where they actually put a box truck at the top of this hill so that runners could hop in and protect themselves from the wind if they needed a break. The wind was pulling your poles right out of your hands. And I finally got to the car, and I was going to take a little bit of a nap, and I wasn't asleep long. Doug came in the car, and you know, I know his tone, right? And he actually had a kind tone at this point. And he's like, "Listen, you're not gonna like this, but you gotta go." I was just down at the aid station talking to him. The storm's coming in, and you know, I looked out the window and it was snowing. He had his headlamp on with the red light. You know, snow started coming down. So, you know, we saddled up and got out there, and I did not want to do that at that point. I had enough, but we were close to the end at that point.
It was in the barn, as you said.
Hay was
Hayes
in the barn.
Bard. Well, I've got 2 more questions for you, and then if you guys, I'm sure there's questions in chat. If you could organize, and then you can chat them out, and we'll ask Matt.
Okay.
That
All
means
right.
you're gonna have to do something, Robin.
I am.
Yeah, they've done well with the bottle of wine.
Oh.
I'm
kidding, I'm
Family, Sassquad here,
Family
Sassquad.
program.
Kidding.
Squatch family.
No wine
Okay,
here.
my 2 questions before we hit the audience questions, a little bit deeper. Can you identify like the hardest moment out of the whole Triple Crown? Like, is there one moment that comes to your mind where like this was the hardest moment, and then talk about like how you worked through that, how you overcame?
I think the hardest moment actually came with Jimmy in Colorado, at the Colorado Hail Mary, because I had just gotten beaten up all night with Evan, and I was climbing up this hill, and it was, just was unending, and so I had, more than half of that to go still, and a majority of the Colorado Hail Mary in front of me, and I didn't see how it was going to happen, and I started crying, and I had my father's ashes in my hand, and I had surprised Jimmy because he didn't know what I was doing, and I was just so down that I pulled my dad out of my pocket, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to keep going, and he gave me I surprised him, and I saw the look on his face, and he was like, and he was good. He gave me some space, and then he's like, hey man, we're just gonna keep moving. And if anybody knows Jim, he's got that attitude. He's like, just come on, follow me. And I followed him up, and thankfully we were close. He had about 1,000 feet more to bag a 14er, as I've come to know. And he's like, do you mind if I go get it? And I was like, you go. I needed some alone time too, to go downhill. And he did that, and I went, and that's where the plan started formulating in my head to alter the course a little bit to make it a little more manageable. But that was definitely the lowest moment. But I will say, Colorado was tough because, I really was hallucinating. I was seeing my father everywhere, and I was best friends with my dad. So, lose him. He was only 70 when he passed, and not even 70. He was 68. Talking to him, seeing him on stumps, clapping for me, urging me on. Like, I saw him everywhere, urging me on. And, every kid wants to make their dad proud, So I kept asking I'm losing it right now.
So is Robin,
We're all
don't worry.
losing it.
I'm losing it right now. Every boy wants
Only
to make
took
his daddy
54
proud,
minutes.
So
54 minutes.
he was also my biggest fan. Like he would drive me into the New York Marathon, me and my friends. I ran it that first year by myself, and then every year I tried to encourage. I always wanted to bring a rookie along to see the race from the rookie's eyes, and it was great. He was always there driving me in, and he was always meeting me in Brooklyn with my wife and other family members. So, we lost our patriarch, so, the running is closely tied to that and him. And part of me likes getting to this point because these 200s strip you bare. Your emotions are riding right on the surface, and I like that. And I feel closer to him when I'm out there, stretched real thin like that. So it's almost like I'm running to him in a way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
100%.
I think
Thanks
it's
a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a tough question. But it's a beautiful thing that running. It's always more than just running,
Always.
And to be able to, you shared that so much with your dad while he was here, and then to be able to continue to share that is a really special thing.
Yeah.
The other question I have for you is a big question that it'll be hard to answer, maybe, but like Evan said, you've had some time to think about it. How has the Triple Crown changed Matt Klein?
He's still, I'm still just me, I think.
I agree.
I know that's a cop-out answer, but
Skinnier.
I just try to stay humble. It's the old adage that pain is temporary, pride is forever is never more appropriate. It's something that I can rely on and lean back into when things get rough. You can kind of think back to the journey and all the training and everything, all the highs and lows, and if you could get through that, you could get through most things. I think it's given me a new appreciation for, not a new, but a renewed. Everybody's got a story, everybody's got a journey, everybody's got something to give back, contribute. It's remarkable, like to see how everybody pulls for each other, and the story's beyond mine. Mine's a vanilla story, really. It's pedestrian.
Sell yourself short.
I think you're downplaying it a little
Sell
bit,
yourself
Matt.
short.
There's the story of, there's folks that one guy finished 10 seconds before the final, and we were talking about this before this webcast. Somebody finished 10 seconds before the deadline.
Right.
Another finished 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Another woman went through cancer last year and treatment, and came back and ran the triple this year. Those are awe-inspiring moments. The people that helped them get across the line, like Jenny and Nicole.
Yeah.
That's the money. Yeah.
Doesn't make theirs more special or less special because they finished 2 seconds before whatever. It just makes it different.
That's right.
Everybody
That's
just
right.
has a different story.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Well, and I think to
Wait,
quote
here.
you,
Disappeared.
What's wrong?
Alright, never mind.
you're
Okay.
right. We're
It
right.
disappeared for a second.
We're good.
She just
I'm
feeling left out.
I'm gonna quote you what you said earlier on how somebody's 5K is another person's 200. I mean, that I think the principle of that applies to what we're saying here. All right, can we hit some questions from the?
You want to go off the thing here?
Yeah. If there are any, or if you guys have some.
There's a few.
All right.
Ryan Klein.
Oh, don't answer that one.
Okay.
Don't even ask
Klein.
it. All right, what do you say?
With something always on your calendar, what's next for the legend? Another race or possibility to coach and crew and give back?
I'm definitely going to give back. I mean, we're even talking about so during Moab, my crew volunteered at an aid station, and I actually last year volunteered for 5 days out there. It was incredible. You volunteered at Bigfoot, unbelievable. I think they had a good time at the aid station. Richard Jack, is that the name of it? Yep. I would love to man an aid station front to back and have a team and just be that spot that people come in and remember, like, man, I was banged up before I came in there and they passed me up and sent me out, and
Yeah.
like, I want to be part of that team that gets people across the line like that, from a supportive standpoint. I'm going to run Vermont this year, probably in July.
Vermont 100.
Vermont 100. Get back up there. It's been 2 years, and my last time up there landed me in the hospital, so I got something to
Little unfinished business.
kind of want to kick that race in the teeth a little bit.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
Grace, good to be there.
So that's what's on the calendar, Rye.
Oh gosh. The question person left. I'll try to fill in. Becca, okay, hurry up. Questions.
Coming
I need a
back.
question.
Well, Brian had another nice
Okay,
comment
he had
for you.
another. All right, go.
He said, I gotta scroll. You've motivated me to get my health back in order, so thank you. Which is your toughest task to maintain, motivation or discipline?
If you didn't hear the question, he said, "What is your toughest task to maintain, motivation or discipline?"
It's a
great question. Toughest task, motivation or discipline? I think they're both. I think they're pretty closely intertwined. You know, it's. I tend to jump and then figure out how I'm gonna land midair. So I'm. You know, it's a good thing I don't drink and jump on ultra sign up because isn't that the equivalent of like jumping and figuring out the landing? I'm Ryan. I'm glad. You look fantastic. And you've been doing a lot of good work. That's motivating. I look around. I get motivation from folks all around me. So, it's collective. It's contagious, right? You see folks, going out to these Sassquad races and hitting their personal best and doing things that they never thought possible. That's motivation right there. Discipline wanes. It comes and goes. But if you DNF a race or I think fear is a great motivator as far as discipline goes, at least in my, I didn't want to die, right? So I needed to train, right? I wanted to die. You could sign up for a race and not train, and then it's going to suck and it's going to hurt, and you might get it done, you might not. You don't need to go through all that. So put the training in now. That way, the reward is the actual race, right? Getting to the line is the reward. How it turns out is anybody's guess.
Right.
Again, it's all problem solving these races, right? Any race. Like something's gonna go wrong. How do I fix it and get to the end?
Awesome. Good question from Ryan.
I have a question.
We got a question from the back here.
Peanut gallery. Funniest memory. Funniest.
She wants to know the funniest memory from the Triple Crown.
You wanna go first?
Can I say one?
Yeah,
All
please.
right. Bigfoot 200, we're coming out of the last aid station, and we weren't able to park the crew car close enough.
Come here.
Close enough to the aid station. It was pouring rain. You had just gone literally through hell and back on that last, I think, back-to-back legs.
Was terrible.
And you were trying to get your feet worked on. It kind of worked, kind of didn't. And then you had these slides on, sandals, walking back with your poles, just like this, and shouting, "Kimmy!" And we came up with the trail name Hobo Runner.
I was a hobo runner. Yeah.
I think that was my favorite, funniest memory from
It was
crewing.
so wet
It was so wet.
that any tape job that I had done was just a shamble, and I knew the guy in that aid station was just not up to the task, but I kind of let him do what he was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you guys had parked so far away. It was terrible.
Sorry.
It was raining so hard.
You're like, I don't want to walk there. We're like, you have to go that way anyway.
Then we had 13 road miles ahead of us.
13 road miles to
jeez.
finish.
And you remember that couple that was kind of catching us? They were like racing us at the end?
A little.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Why are you racing us at the end like that?
So let me go after.
Go ahead.
So it's funny that you say that. So we're at Moab. Matt's taking a trail nap. This isn't the funniest moment. Just came to mind because you said that. He's taking a trail nap off to the side, and some guys kind of like run by. We had seen him before, but he comes right. Matt kind of spurs up and says, "Bobby!"
Was it Bobby?
I thought it was
Bobby.
It wasn't Bobby. But I didn't know that either. I was like, oh, man knows these guys. Matt knows everybody out here. And then we finally catch up to him a little bit later on. And he's like, Matt just says, "Hey, sorry, you look like a guy, Bobby, I know."
That was Michael and Alex, who I'm friends with now.
Right.
I ran some more miles with them later on in the
did
day.
Yeah.
So hysterical. I thought that was Bobby, which tails into my funniest moment, which was...
You gotta give a shout out to Bob.
Shout out to Bob. Congratulations, Bob. It was 160 at Moab, and I was coming in. I was excited to get my feet taped, and I came into the med tent, and there's Bob.
Bob.
And I'm like, "Bobby!" And Dougie's there. Everybody's going, "Bobby!" And he's just sitting there like a clam, happy as a clam. And Nicole and Jenny were in that tent, and And they're like, you know Bob? And we're like, who doesn't know Bob? And everybody was just, we were 160 miles into it. We were done with Shea Mountain. We were headed into LaSalle's. Everybody was just punching.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And there was a little fire in there. And everybody's nice and warm. It was a pretty funny moment, for sure.
Amazing.
And there's a lot of them. I mean, a funny moment to me, which I laugh at still, is coming in Bigfoot. I forgot the section, but remember the car? The car was parked on an angle, so I was trying to sleep in the back in the sleeping bag, and I kept like sliding into a ball. It was just uncomfortable. But Doug was wrapped up in his sleeping bag on the ground.
Yes.
I just wanted to kick him in the head on the way out. I was so angry and
The car was
so
parked.
mad that I had to go back out and keep running. And
We were sleeping on the road.
I know you were sleeping on the road. I still wanted to kick him in the head. I was so mad that I had to go back out and keep running. I chuckle at that.
That was funny. And then we had to deal with the SUV. We tried to keep it running for you, but it kept turning on. So we had to keep hitting the remote start. Yeah, you weren't a happy camper.
No, it was a
that
bad
moment.
moment. It was a bad moment. There were a couple bad moments at Bigfoot.
Oh.
Like coming in the click, we came out of the section click attack. And so the section started off, it was a 20-mile section. Doug's got and the beginning of it, it depends on when you run through there, but it was sunset and the mosquitoes were so bad I had to run with a mosquito net on.
Oh,
That was the
yeah.
thing about Bigfoot too. There's always this hum of insects out there.
Oh,
So
sounds great.
if you're trying to sleep, forget about it, because it's like,
No.
and I had to run with a mosquito net on, and then all these trees that were down, and then the rain and the fog came in, the temperature dropped to like 40 degrees. It was rough. It was rough. So I came down, and it's a 2.5 mile out and back, which out and backs are tough, I think, because you know you got to come back. Right? That's why it's called out and back. And you're just coming down, 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 down. You get into the aid station, and I had made up in my mind like I was done. I didn't think I was coming out of there. And then you guys did the old, you weren't there, but you guys did the old, hey, a storm's coming, you gotta get out of here. like that seemed to be the excuse for all the raises. And I'm so delirious, I'm like, okay, hey, there's a storm coming, you gotta get out of here.
It worked, right?
It worked every time.
There's
That-
a question that
Never
popped up
like
from
this.
Dina.
Okay.
She wanted to know what your favorite trail food was.
What is your favorite trail food? From Dina Griffin.
So, you know, that's a great question because we went shopping in front of Colorado's race, and you know, you bring a lot of supplies out. It's a lot of real food on these races. You know, I think I use scratch, so the scratch from a water perspective is great. I must have ate 22 breakfast burritos.
I was gonna ask, how
at
many
Bigfoot.
burritos did you
Yeah,
have?
22. Dougie was that a burrito in your pocket? You're glad to see me.
Two burritos.
So it was breakfast burritos at Bigfoot, Colorado. A lot of burritos there. You guys fed me 5 pounds of bacon on that. I think there was a lot of bacon.
Wow.
And a creamy chicken and wild rice soup, which was
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
what
yeah.
hit the spot.
Uh-huh.
And at Moab,
Oh,
I don't know if I had a favorite at Moab.
I would say.
You're pretty diverse there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much whatever I had in my pack. Are they the Bobo?
Boba bars? Yeah.
Boba bars were
Boba
pretty
bars.
good. Scratch chews, and then whatever real food they had in the aid stations. You got to really utilize the food that they have because it's just too much. Each leg's like 20 miles. It's just too much to carry all that stuff. But real food is the key. Avocado, a lot of avocado when I can get it.
Nick Mathers would like you to bring 2 pair of tights.
Nick Mathers.
Good guy.
I got Pacer bibs coming, fellas. Nick Mathers
No other questions?
with the rocks.
Yes, he said fudge these rocks.
Exactly. Love you, Nick and Hannah. Thank you so much. Again, integral part of the crew. Wouldn't have happened without you. Fantastic. I felt bad for Hannah. She ran 2 sections with me in I think it was called Dry Gulch. It was at night. It was fire roads. It literally, all you could see was beyond. It was just what's in your headlamp. You can't see anything else, and it was just flat as a pancake. So
Oh, was
ran,
it really?
She ran 26.2 with me, and I was really hallucinating at that point too, because it looked kind of like Island Beach State Park or Long Beach Island. I figured there was like ocean here, and I saw lights in the distance. I thought they were ships. I had to take a little trail nap. She stood over me and guarded me. Fantastic, good stuff.
I've got another funny story to share.
Bring it.
Because you reminded me of the hallucinations. So when we were at Bigfoot, I was the pacing leg with all the water crossings.
Yeah.
Which was like the next morning. And you said, okay, Kim, we're going to play the hallucination game. All right? Are you ready for the rules? And I was like, okay. What are the rules? And he's like, okay. So look over there. You see that tree? I said, I see the tree. You're like, now do you see the face? The face right there. It's big. It's got the big eyes and the nose and the mouth. I said, yeah, Matt, I see the...
Did you see it, or were you just joshing?
No, I didn't see it.
It was a shared hallucination.
I was like, come on, we gotta get to the tree.
You lied to me. Pacing liars.
And I was like, yeah, I see it. He said, okay, now wait. We're gonna get closer and watch what happens, Kim. I said, okay, show me what happens.
You didn't see it? Wow.
And you're like, it's gone, Kim, it's gone. The face isn't there anymore. I said, I know. And you're like, Kimmy!
Kimmy! So a lot of the hallucinations are like those artwork. Have you seen the artwork where you look at it and it's like Van Gogh, and then you turn to the side, it's just a bunch of junk that's kind of lined up? Like, that's what I see everywhere out there. It's crazy. Except at Moab, I saw, I legitimately saw, Nick was with me, and I wish Nick was here because I think he would attest to my eyeballs were going in different directions and spinning. I saw a guy with a shopping cart, doing some grocery shopping right in the middle of the trail, and it was a different hallucination because usually I would see like the trees or, a lot of the rock formations look like hieroglyphics in a language that I'm just, one hit of acid away from trying to figure out. And on Shea Mountain, it was bizarre. It was so cold. It just penetrated my mind and soul. And I was seeing all these things. He's like, come on, let's go. And he kind of was urging me down. And thankfully, the temperature warmed up a few degrees, and we got a little lower altitude. And I literally felt myself coming back, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
And you guys both heard me. There were times when I would talk and I would do one of these, like, who's talking? It was out of body.
Oh my gosh.
It's completely weird. And by the way, you asked the why.
You like that?
I kind of like it. I kind of like it. Can't wait to do it.
You like that experience? Yeah. There was another, I know I'm telling a lot of stories, but just to give you guys a picture, that aid station that you were referencing before, we came in, we said, there's a storm coming, but you had stayed there for a little bit beforehand. And I remember you were so wet and so cold, we like wrapped you up in all these blankets and put the hat on you, and then you're like, my feet are so cold. So I had scooted next, and then you like put your feet up, and your feet were like so gross. But they were like 2 inches from the flame, and you kept like, you would like go back like this, and then you'd come up and be like, Kimmy! Or like you would go, Dougie! And I'm like, what? We gotta keep his feet from not catching on fire. And tell him, like, Matt, just shut your eyes. You gotta sleep. Try to go to sleep.
Yeah, but then it was, the storm's coming.
The storm's coming.
The storm's coming.
Because I think Dougie saw, like, okay, he's not sleeping. And I remember Dougie had on, like, shorts, right? He was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, Maddie, we gotta go. We gotta go to the store.
He's superhuman, that guy.
Yeah.
And he's very good at not letting me waste time. So if
Yeah.
he sees I'm messing around and I don't have my feet up or I'm wasting time in some capacity, he nips it in the bud.
Yeah.
That's a strength, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
Ah,
left
I
to
wish
my
Dougie
own
was here.
devices, I'll just sit out there and babble and burn my feet in the fire. There's so many stories like that.
There are a lot of stories like that. Yeah.
Can I ask you one more question?
You can ask as
Yeah.
many as
Do
you want.
it. Do it, Evan.
So, rewind back to maybe the Matt 5 years ago, 10 years ago. What would you tell yourself? And you can't say nothing because, like, I like where I am and I want to go and learn lessons. Like, what's something you would have
You
told
mean everything
yourself?
happens for a reason?
Exactly. You can't cop out. Tell yourself, like, the 10 years ago. What would you tell yourself now?
I'd actually tell myself to kind of get involved with these sorts of races a little sooner. I had a habit of running the same races over and over again, and that's fine. And some people like that, and that's the comfort. But I love the travel, the planning, the logistics, the enormity of it. One of the things that Moab really pointed out to me was how small and insignificant I really am in the scheme of things. It's just so magnificent and timeless. I'd like to experience more about that. It's I want to. We collect experiences, right? That's what it's all about. And meeting people and getting involved and volunteering. Volunteering is phenomenal. I had such a good time at Moab last year, and I met so many good people. Whether we all got nicknames. We were called the Reefer Boys, a couple of us, because it was 90 degrees last year, and we kind of stayed in the refrigerated truck a little bit too long. But meeting people like Jenny and Nicole and Mike McKnight and Kevin Goldberg and Jen. I could go down a list of all the folks. Chris, all these great folks. Bobby. Mike and Alex, Jack and Jill. I was running with Jack and Jill. I said, "Oh, there's
Jack and Jill, for real?
They were Jack and Jill.
I love
and this guy
them.
Drew I met
Don't
at
even know
Moab.
them.
Who, he texted me before this, and he's like, I'm thinking about the triple in 2023. You wanna get involved? And I'll crew. I want to give back, and also not go through the pain of running a 200. Watch somebody else go through it. Kimmy! But it's phenomenal. Just get involved. I would tell the guy 10 years ago not to be so afraid. Took me so long to drop in on the trails. Like, what do you got to lose?
Yes.
I think that's one of the things about getting older too. It's I'm running out of time, and I know I'm not like on death's door, right? But it's I just feel a sense of urgency to go out and do and not be so afraid. What's the worst that can happen? That's a takeaway.
Yeah.
Get it. Go get it.
Yeah, get it.
That was a great question. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Do you want to talk about maybe Crystal? Give a little shout out to her
Crystal?
out there. Yeah.
At Destination Trail?
Yeah.
Is she coming?
I
Crystal's
know.
phenomenal.
We give her a little poke to come out to Jersey.
Crystal is phenomenal, and she there's a lot of folks that are involved with Destination Trail. My experience is having volunteered and worked under her and watched the amount of work that goes into these races. It's unbelievable, and it's not limited to her. There's a lot of folks that are involved to get it done. But I just, to cross the finish line and get a hug from her, and from a volunteer perspective, and then from a runner perspective, it's just remarkable. So she's, there's people that make an impact on you. And it's not like you have to talk to them every day or interact with them every day. There's moments in time that just stick with you. And that's what these races do too. It's kind of funny. I started a race and I ran. You run the first 72 by yourself, which brings you through to the next day. So they tell you to kind of hook up with somebody, to get through the night. And I was running with this guy Josh and this woman Amy. And after the first day, the race is so big and expansive that you don't really see them. you know, until I saw like Amy on the last day, and I was so happy and glad to see her. You know, Josh unfortunately DNF'd. It looked like around 200, but like lives intersect.
Yeah.
You know, it all weaves together until the end. You know, and it's a pretty cool experience. And it's also surreal because you're like, we're still doing what we were doing 4 days ago. Like, how is that possible? You know, and the no sleep is just, it's one continuous loop. It's unbelievable. It really is remarkable.
Yeah.
Sounds like college.
What's that?
Sounds like college.
Sounds like college.
True.
So
Well,
what would you say? You know, we always have new trail runners come to Sassquad trail running events. We love having new runners or people who are trying trail running for the first time. What would your advice be to them? Because I'm sure, you know, we all were new runners at one point, and we're hearing a guy talk about running 200 miles. I mean, that sounds crazy. What would you say to somebody who's starting trail running for the first time? Like, what advice would you give them?
I would say ask questions, you know, talk to people, get involved, and be fearless. You know, I know that sounds cavalier because I was not fearless. You know, now I'm a little more just from the experience, and that's what doing these races. The why, like it gives me a bit of confidence to do something else. You know, try something else. But we're all here to help. You know, it's you know, I did a couple of triathlons, a couple Ironman, and it's a different type of community. And I'm not knocking. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say supportive because then I'm knocking it. But
Inclusive?
inclusive.
We're
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
We're family.
It's like everybody, these races, everybody wants everybody, any race, not the 200s, any race, any Sassquad race. We want everybody to succeed, you know?
Everybody says good job.
Yeah,
so
you
new.
know, good job.
And they mean it.
Great. I know.
They
Yeah.
mean
It's
it.
crazy. So different.
You know, it's a risk on these big runs to give people water, but you know, Bigfoot, I gave some water to
Yeah.
somebody, Moab, somebody else was out of water, helped them out. Like, we want everybody to succeed, you know, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back. Somebody would do that for me.
Right.
Like, that's,
Well, you've experienced it.
yeah,
right?
and
And you pay it forward.
at the risk of your own race, you know, you're helping somebody out. So, you know, anybody new, that's my recommendation. You know, just go out there, ask questions, come early, stay late. You know, volunteer a little bit, make friends. That's it. It's not. There's no secret sauce there. You know, you just got to do it.
Let's do it. That's it.
You just got to sign up for that triple.
Okay.
How many Triple Crown finishers were
824.
there?
I don't know, actually. You know, I think
60
the number.
something, weren't there?
What's that?
Triple Crown people?
Yeah.
Weren't there 60 something?
To start with, I don't think that's what finished.
Oh, it finished. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Okay.
good stuff.
It was awesome. Do we have that's probably about it for our questions, right?
I can't thank you enough for, you know, bringing me on.
Matt, this was so great. I know I tried to get you on beforehand and you resisted a little bit in between the races, but this is so special to have this recap, and that's what, you know, I love about the podcast is now, you know, this is something that you can have. You can look back on your family as well. And we got everybody
You're
involved.
90 years old.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
insert the come here video. There's so many moments from these races that you remember. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's remarkable.
Mhm.
You know, climbing up that mountain and seeing that sunrise, that
Ah,
was incredible.
Mount Margaret, yeah.
Then trying to take it, you know, you promised me that we were a mile away from the end, and
All
we were
right.
like 6 miles.
All right.
I just wanted to knock you out.
I was hoping that wouldn't come up.
Lie about the system.
That's
You
like,
lied.
I'll never
That one down.
forgive myself for
We're
that
making
moment.
Tahoe notes, FYI.
Yeah.
Got a couple
Don't-
of gems here.
Don't go by your watch mileage.
You know what? It's all you know what. And for Moab, like, you know, there's there's maps and all sorts of data and information. You got to take it all with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
It's not exact, you know, because I was getting bent there at Bigfoot. I'm like, where is that aid station? Why are they sending us up to this peak? I don't need to see another
I hate
summit.
out and back. There's no point.
What is the point? This race is long as it is. Do they have to put this climb up here?
How steep this is, Kimmy. It's so steep.
Over and over and over again. Right? So funny.
It was beautiful.
Yes. Absolutely spectacular. Now I
Amazing.
know why people re-sign up. You know? They sign back up.
Well, it sounds like you're doing Bigfoot 2022.
No, I didn't say I was doing
2023?
that. I'd like to go out there and crew, help out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, big year next year with the kids. You know, the wife, got to make sure everything's copacetic and cool.
Happy life, happy life.
Yeah, a big thing next weekend too. Come on now.
What did I write to you today? You're like, Did I say 2020?
Tahoe 2023.
Oh, here we go.
I wasn't talking about myself.
Proud of you, man.
Good stuff. Thank
Proud
you.
of you.
We're gonna have
Amazing.
around you guys
Awesome.
because you guys were integral parts.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank
Well, thank you. This was fantastic. Thank you to everybody tuning in. We had Instagram for a little bit, but if you stuck with us for, is it still going?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's still going. Oh, you're
It's
over here,
on there,
Instagram. Facebook, thank you for watching. If you missed this, you can catch it on the replay. It'll be on our Facebook page, hopefully. If not, well, I hope it's on the Facebook page because that's how we're going to load on the podcast. So, it'll be fine. But yeah, that's it. So thank you for tuning in. Again, you can find out more about us. Go to sassquadtrailrunning.com, and our events are all up there. You can check out the trail parties. And that's it. All right. So thank you guys. Yeah, round of applause. All right. Cool.
Thanks.
All right.
Are we off?